Hello there! In this lesson we'll be creating this handsome lion bust. Using air dry clay, we'll be creating a robust armature first, building up the sculpture, refining all the elements and creating the mane in a relatively simple way. There is a full lesson plan and views in a downloadable PDF that can be found through the information link. These placement diagrams show how the armature occupies the sculpture. For the first part of the armature, we'll be using a 30 by 30mm length of dressed timber, a length of 20mm by 2mm aluminium flat bar, a Montmartre 30 by 30cm painting board for our base, some stainless steel 40mm brackets and some 50mm screws. You'll also need a drill and saw. The method of construction is outlined in that PDF. Armatures are like a skeleton and support all the weight. There is approximately 8 kilos of clay used in this project, so our armature needs to be strong. In this step, we also create some butterflies from wood pegs to wire them to our armature. Butterflies support any underlying clay, so you'll need some tie wire and pliers also. Now that our beautiful armature is made, we can add the clay. This project is quite large, so I have printed out the views to A3 and stuck them on the wall so I can take measurements directly off them with my dividers. For the sculpting, we will need a board to hold our clay, a turntable, clay. I used 4 blocks, some dividers, a small paintbrush, an assortment of clay tools, a spray bottle filled with water and some scissors. I then start to block in the project. The thing to keep in mind here is to make sure there is no pockets of air between the clay. As I add the clay, I am constantly referring to the views and build towards the general shape. I constantly turn the sculpture on the turntable to view it from all angles. The main elements and the order in which to take them are in that lesson plan. clay has been applied to a foundation level, we can start to add and refine the elements. I start by marking the area around the face where the mane will start, and then start on my friend's muzzle. I must admit I accidentally lost some footage of creating the muzzle and his nose, unfortunately. That said, this part of the muzzle has large muscles that emerge from below the nasal area and wrap over each side of the mouth, starting from a central line under the nose. They are convex, so additions of clay need to be built up so that they have a round appearance. These muscles are called the orbicularis oris, if anyone's interested. The other thing I will say is that a lion's nose slopes back at an angle more than you might think. If it is too vertical, it will look incorrect. Lions' noses are also quite wide at the tip. In fact, lions' muzzles are very long compared with other large cats, and their ears are also very large. Eye placement is really important on any realistic sculpture. Transfer the measurement with those dividers and lay in the orbital muscles around the eye area. I don't show it here, but it is important to continuously keep spritzing your sculpture with water to keep the clay workable. I create the cheekbones by pressing the clay either side of it and create the muscles extending from the muzzle in the same way. I create a ball of clay for the eyeball and lay some clay over it partially to create the brow. It's a good idea to Google some photos of lions to use as reference, of course. One of the most useful tools for modelling air dry clay is the end of a paintbrush. It leaves a round indentation and is great for smoothing the surface when rolled over clay and held on its side. Other important tools are the rounded wooden paddle and the hobby knife. The paddle is good for adding small amounts of clay and smoothing edges, and the hobby knife is good for carving off clay without distorting the surrounding clay like ribbon tools can. Close observation is the most important thing with sculpture. Subtle observations, like the way Mr. Lion's nose curls up a bit here, and the indentation under that curl. I suggest the whiskers into the oris muscles and smooth them off. I then lay in clay strips to suggest the mane. This is basically done by laying long conical shapes over the area. I then use the edge of the paddle tool to create vertical lines, smooth it in with a brush, and then refine it with a sharp pointed metal tool. And just keep going until I'm happy with how it looks. This obviously takes some time, so just resign yourself to this fact and remember what Aristotle said. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet.